Okay, so that's the Texas perspective. Now let's get into the Bama perspective. Because even though they won, and yes, they're undefeated, and yes, they're still like, Alabama, there are some real concerns with Alabama, folks. Okay? So if Texas can look at this game and they can project, man, we are a much better team than maybe I even expected, Bama fans have to watch that game and think to themselves, wow, we are not even close to the team that we expected to be. This was supposed to be the team that was going to be the biggest favorite to win the national championship that we've ever seen. The Nagurski Award winner and Will Anderson back. Bryce Young, the Heisman winner, back. They're going to reload. Don't worry about the fact that they don't have names at wide receiver. Don't worry about the fact that they were coming off a year in which they were the worst rushing team under the Saban era outside of his first year. They'll be fine on the offensive line. They got a transfer in Tyler Steen and a transfer at running back in Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, don't worry. The defense is going to carry us. And guess what, folks? Bama, is in some trouble. Let's start with the fact that they had three main areas that were totally unimpressive in the game against Texas, even though they won. Three main areas. Those three areas are they couldn't run the ball, the wide receivers couldn't get open, and I could not believe they were so undisciplined and had 15 penalties for 100 yards. So let's start with those three. Okay, well, you think that one of those is going to be fixed. So I'm not really worried about the 15 penalties because practice this week is going to be like hell. And Nick Saban's going to be all over those guys, and I just don't expect them to get that many penalties again moving forward, right? I think that we all agree on that. So that leaves really two areas that you're like, boy, this is troublesome. And yes, it's troublesome. The offensive line and the run game. Folks, it wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. The numbers at the end of the day are masking what was a complete dismantling of the Alabama offensive line by the Texas defensive line. And this is a Texas defense, by the way, that wasn't particularly close to being very good stopping the run a year ago. So this offensive line for Bama, we thought there would be more versatility in the schematics of the run game. There weren't. We thought Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be kind of a breakout star. He wasn't. Let me just dive into the numbers here, okay? Because I think that the numbers paint a very serious problem for the Alabama running game. Bama fans, check this out. Bryce Young had some scampers on scrambles that those aren't rushing yards. You can't attribute that to the offensive line. Those are breakdowns in pass defense and ultimately just quality runs from your quarterback. So Bryce Young and those runs, I don't really pay attention to. So then, outside of that, let's look at what the running backs did. Basically, 17 carries for a little over 100 yards. And you're thinking to yourself, well, that's fine. What are you talking about? One of those carries was an 81-yard touchdown. I repeat, one of those was an 81-yard touchdown, which is great. And they dominated on that one play. That leaves 16 running back carries for 42 yards the rest of the game. That's not going to cut it. It's just not going to cut it. That's 2.6 yards per carry. I was really surprised that they couldn't run the ball any better than that. And moving forward, that's a problem. Why? Because they were constantly in passing down situations, long yardage situations, and then that leads to the second problem. Those wide receivers were not ready for the stage at all. This has been a wide receiver core dating back to Julio Jones. Think of all the first rounders they've had. Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jamison Williams. I think Mechie was second rounder. Freaks, and speed. These dudes could run. Think about Jeudy, run. Ruggs, run. Devontae, forget about it. Jalen, forget about it. Jamison Williams, 10-200 guy. Blow the top off the defense. They could be pass first. Get those safeties out of there. Then we can run the football. We can bring those deep over routes. We can throw play action. None of that was at their disposal on Saturday against Texas. None of it. And in large part due to the fact that those wide receivers couldn't create separation and they weren't playing consistently. Deep into the fourth quarter, there was only 1-2 wide receiver catches total. No wide receiver in the game had over 40 yards. The leading receiver for them, what was it? I think it was Holden. I think Holden was their leading receiver, and he had like 39 yards. Or was it Burton? One of the two. That's not going to cut it. Not going to cut it moving forward. And it led to Bryce Young having to hold the ball, being under duress. It led to that weird play in the end zone. We're not going to rehash that call because it was a funky call anyways. All of this to say that the reason you won the football game is Texas missed a field goal. There was some questionable officiating, and then you have Bryce Young. And Bryce Young had to put a cape on late in the game. He figured out the defense, and he made the plays necessary to go and win. And as soon as there was 129, I said it on the broadcast. Steve Sarkisian, great. You went down and you kicked a field goal, and guess what? You're looking over there at the guy you recruited to Alabama, who you know how special he is, and he's about to walk on the field and beat you. And that's exactly what he did. That's exactly what he did. Alabama has had problems on the road now dating back to last year. I brought it up on the broadcast. They had the 2-point win against Florida. They lost against Texas A&M. They beat Mississippi State badly. And then they had the 4 overtime game against Auburn. True road games, right? I'm not talking about neutrals. True road games. So 3 of the 4, they didn't play well. Now they open up on the road. Not in the season, but obviously their road opener, if you will, at Texas. Play awful. So this is a trend now for this Bama team, this version of Bama that is not pleasing if I'm a Bama fan. The bottom line is you've got to go to Arkansas. They're now ranked 10th in the country. You got to Tennessee. They're 15th in the country. You got to go to LSU. They're going to be much better when you face them than what they are right now. You know that's the case. And you've got at Ole Miss, number 20. They have got to clean up what they do on the road, or else they're going to wind up, they're going to be at Arkansas or Tennessee or LSU or Ole Miss, and guess what? They're not going to have a chance unless Bryce Young puts a cape on his back. That's where they're at right now. So Bama moving forward, I'm much more concerned with them than I am with Texas. Obviously, the health of the quarterback, the expectations for Texas obviously play a part of that because Bama, you're expecting to win a national championship. And what we saw on Saturday wasn't national championship caliber. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.